What's going on, guys? Merijn here, and it's time for a new chapter. For those that have been following me for a few years right now, you know that my content started as strictly fitness content since I was 19 years old. As I've developed over the years as a person, started gaining some success with the businesses that I've built, and then hit a point of burnout last year, it was time for a change. My mission is now to help you win at life, one day at a time. Fitness is just one piece of that puzzle. Now, with my new mission comes a new format. In this show, we're gonna talk about what it takes to live an unconventional life, to make up your own rules, and how to achieve a high-performance lifestyle. We'll talk about mindset, entrepreneurship, and all things personal development to help you grow and learn from real people who have been there and done that. So welcome to the Merijn Show. I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Marjolein, aka Lenny.
Hello.
Today we have a very special guest for this first episode, no one other than Sam Feldt.
What's up? Happy to be here.
He is one of the biggest DJs on the planet, multi-platinum selling artist with over 1 billion total streams on Spotify, which is unbelievable. And next to being a DJ and producer, Sam is also an entrepreneur at heart. He owns a record label, Heartfelt Records, radio show, the Heartfelt Foundation, which is a nonprofit for sustainability. And he's one of the founders of the game-changing platform Fengage, which I personally have used as well. And so we're going to talk about that today too. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time today. Happy to have you here.
Well, happy to be here, like I said. Almost 2 billion.
Almost 2 billion. That's ridiculous.
Wow,
man,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Congrats on everything, man. That's so amazing. And we've known each other for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so it'll be cool catching up today. Because as I said, Sam is not just a DJ, but he's a real entrepreneur. And he's been doing this for a very long time, so we're going to dig into all the good stuff today.
And the bad stuff.
And the bad stuff. So Sam, I'm wondering, to give the people kind of like an idea of what your life is like, what did this past week look like for you?
So it's Wednesday now. On Monday, I flew to Croatia. Did a show at Palm Tree Festival. Played just before Kygo. That was really awesome. We're part of the same management company, so it was really fun to see everybody again. And then last weekend, I had a show in Arnhem in the Netherlands. In between, I've been kind of running the acquisition of my company, Fengage. It's been acquired by Triller, so we're doing this whole process around converting the investors, transferring the shares. So it's a lot of legal and notary work. So that's been going on, and of course, we're also working on releasing new music. So I've got 2 releases that we're now focusing on the Heartfelt Records.
Awesome.
From Sam Feldt. And I just signed a new record deal. So it's all
Casual, and I signed a new record.
Yeah, it's been a busy
Amazing.
week.
Congrats, that's sick. And so this past year, like how many countries have you been, or like how many shows do you do?
I don't keep track, but you know the app Polar Steps on your phone, which tracks where you go, and it's kind of like a traveling app.
Yeah.
So I installed it. I don't have it anymore, but I had it installed. And in the first couple of years of touring, I used to travel at a speed of 65 kilometers per hour at all times. So even while I was sleeping on my own bed, the average was still 60. Yeah.
Wow.
So maybe that tells the story. I used to do, before COVID, 150 shows abroad per year. So that kind of outlines, the volume.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot, man.
It is a lot. Yeah.
Is that been going on for a couple of years, or has it, like, obviously COVID was there?
Yeah. So
was it as many shows before COVID, or is it even more now than before that time?
We're trying to be a little bit more selective now with the shows that I do and don't do, and see if it makes sense logistically, healthy, financially, of course.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of factors that we weigh a little bit heavier now than before COVID. Of course, when you start as a DJ, you need to do everything and anything because you simply want to get your name out there. So that was in 2015, 16. I was really running. And I feel like right now it's a little bit more of a strategic decision where I play and where I don't play. So it's a little bit less, but it's still a lot.
You're still running.
Yeah, still running, yeah.
So I remember last time we were having dinner here, it was the COVID period.
Yeah.
And then you were had 0 shows. It was already a couple months into COVID, right?
I think it was the summer of 2020 or something when we met,
Like how did you feel afterwards, like finally being able to do shows again? And
it's weird how quickly you adapt to, going back to that. Like the first couple of months, of course, it was special again. It was like being able to fly again, like doing these shows after two years. But after a couple of weekends, you get back into that same groove, to be honest, and it starts to feel like normal again, which of course it is normal. It is normal to travel.
Yeah,
it is
you've
normal.
been doing it for years. So.
Yeah. So I'm happy to see that we've been able to adjust fairly quickly again after the pandemic. Yeah.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's good to go back to like where you all started, because it's really cool to hear where you are now, and it's quite unrealistic for people. Also, obviously, like this lifestyle that you live. Like, where did it start? Like, let's say your introduction with music, but also entrepreneurship, because I believe entrepreneurship actually came first for you. Is that right?
Well, I mean, it depends. If you, I was always like when I was as a kid, I always was entrepreneurial in the sense that I even created my own company selling to my neighbors. So I would create this like brochure with like cutouts of products that I found, somewhere else in another brochure, and then I would mark up the price and try to sell it. So that's always been in my heart.
Nice.
I started my first company when I was 13 years old, so I was still a minor. I had to drag my dad to the Chamber of Commerce to get registered. You can't just register a minor.
You're a child.
Yeah. But no, music came a little bit earlier. I feel like I've been DJing since I was like 8, 9.
Whoa.
Had my own drive-in show. So I just asked for like, when my birthday happened, I asked for like money, buy a new smoke machine, new stroboscope, like disco lights. And I just play like parties with my friends. So that's how that kind of started. My first company was a e-commerce business, so a drop shipping business, even before it was cool. So I'm 20 now. I was 13 then, so that's over 15 years ago.
Wow, you're one of the pioneers.
Yep.
You see everybody like doing these ads now, and
I was drop shipping before it was cool.
Before it was cool.
So it was projectors and camcorders from China. We white labeled those and created a brand called Calium. I sold that company. I was 15, so 2 years later, learned a lot.
How much?
For almost as much as I spent. So it was a loss.
That's still cool. Yeah.
So I learned a lot of lessons early on because I was still in school. So I couldn't manage the company properly because I was in class. So customer support, people were calling me, hey, where's my delivery? While I was getting, like a class in German, so I couldn't pick up the phones. I had to hire like a call center, got too expensive. So I had to manage my costs, which I couldn't do. So there was a lot of things that were going wrong, but also a lot of learnings at a very young age. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the main things that you learned there at that age, you would say?
Well, don't spend more than you make or that you can reasonably spend, like keep an eye on your burn rate, as you would say it in startup terms, because, of course, a company is there to make a profit. Otherwise, you launch a non-profit, which I did as well, but it's a different story. So in the end, you want to keep a close eye on your margin, and that's not something I was even taking into account. I was just running it. Yeah.
And where did that first interest come from? Like why start a business at that age, especially?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I realized early on because, my parents, never had a lot of money. Like they had a job, but like I was always quite restricted with what we could do because of the amount of income that they had. And I also saw like friends and, other members of my family, they had a lot more money and they could do more fun stuff. So it was at a young age, I realized that, in order to do stuff that you like to do, you need to have a certain income. So I think that's something I realized when I was still a child, and that always, kind of stuck with me and led me to start my own business. Yeah.
How did your parents feel about you starting your business, and do you think they had an idea about how busy you actually were, like getting calls during your German class, or?
I think they kind of knew. I think they've always been very supportive. Like my dad literally came with me to sign for this company, and he was like, I trust you. But like he's also like reliable, like for any costs or any losses that I would incur because I was a minor. So there's a lot of trust involved. So I think they always like try to support me in any way. But like for example, for my mom, it's like it's very hard for her to understand like what types of situations I was dealing with when I was 13, 14 years old, because she'd never been in those situations. So
and it also was obviously on the internet a lot.
Yeah, on the internet, something like that was not very familiar. And then also like coming into situations where she would get very scared. Like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to buy this supply or this product? Are you going to be able to sell it again? What if you don't? Like, do you have enough money? Like all that stuff. Like. And it's quite scary, I guess, for parents when they're not entrepreneurs themselves to see their kid at a young age doing all these crazy things. Yeah.
So your parents were more trying to avoid some risks, and
Yeah.
you're really trying to take more risks.
Yeah.
So especially
Exactly.
financially.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's also why I did it, is because I felt that, you know, what do you have to lose? So I know that there's always going to be a way to, you know, get a job and make a normal wage. And like there's, I mean, I finished my degree, so I mean, I can always go back to that.
What did you study?
I studied, it's now called business innovation. When I finished it, it was called advanced business creation. It was only...
That sounds cool.
It was the second year that degree actually existed. So I was after the pilot class. They didn't even have the accreditation yet. And then while I was studying, they got the accreditation. And
Okay.
So
You feel like you learned anything there?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
did you learn mostly? Yeah, also.
Yeah, because all of the teachers, they were actually people that were either entrepreneurs themselves or they worked at like high positions in companies. So that was a big difference from strictly theoretical book research to really doing projects. All the projects we did there were actually for existing companies that had actual issues, and we actually had to present those solutions to those companies as well. So,
That's good.
so I learned quite a bit, and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
also the social aspect is just nice at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get the part of risk, because it's the same thing for me. I did not finish my study, but I dropped out of university when my business was already doing well, and I was like earning way more than I would ever with a 9 to 5. You know, not even if I became like a doctor or anything, or a lawyer, while I was doing like marketing and sales study. And so at some point I realized too, you know, like what is really the risk for me to start this own business and to go for it? Because I was still living at my parents' place, you know, so I had like, now I realize like how lucky I was, you know, and how grateful you should be if you're in that position, if you're a student and you can just do a side gig and start a side hustle while living with your parents. They cook for you, they do the laundry, like you throw the
No
laundry
risk,
down and it
literally,
just
yeah.
somehow ends up back in your closet like magically.
There's no
And that
risk.
magic goes away
Yeah,
at some
it's a free
stage.
hotel.
And very little responsibilities.
Very little responsibilities, you know. So take those risks. And I'm not saying everybody to obviously quit university or anything for no reason. But for example, like start next to your study or next to the other things that you're doing. Like the biggest risk is just losing time, right? But we don't actually lose it because you learn all these valuable lessons that you would not have learned if you spend the time on something else, right?
No, I think you're gaining time. You know, if at a young age you start making those mistakes,
That's interesting.
because it's better to make them when you're 13 than when you're 30 or 60. You
That's a
know,
good point,
because
yeah.
by then you might have kids, you might have a wife, you might have a mortgage, and then it's suddenly a lot more risky. You know, maybe
There's a lot more at stake if you make a big
Yeah.
financial mistake when you have a complete household that you have to manage. Yeah.
Exactly, and I'm not saying you should take on multi-million-dollar debt when you're 13.
No, that's not
But you know, if it's small, if it's
Yeah.
manageable, if it's a small business, go and do it and try and fail, which is great because you know you don't have to make those same mistakes ever again.
Exactly. So how did you move from starting that first little dropshipping business to the next thing?
So I sold
What
that
was
when
the
I
next
was
thing?
15. I'd always been a big nerd, so a lot involved in web design, web development, all those type of things. So I was a web designer basically. So I did it for other people, freelance, but I also launched some of my own concepts. Had like some internet properties and stuff like that, and then. Launched a agency together with 2 other guys, which was more like a digital marketing agency where I did design, another guy did development, another guy did marketing, which lasted for 3 months because we weren't as good of a fit as we thought. Also, a lot of lessons learned there.
Yeah, that's
like
important.
we signed a 3-year lease on an apartment, or not like an office, like in an office building. And after 3 months, we broke up and we stuck with the lease. So I had to take on a lot of student debt. To pay for my office that I didn't use. So lots of lessons there, and then kind of moved from there into, the music business that started when I was, around 17, 18, yeah.
How did that start?
As Dr. Papasov. That was my previous DJ name. So I have always been a DJ since, like I said, since I was 11, like drive-in shows and stuff like that. When I was on holiday with my friends in Portugal, when I was 17, went to a club, a real club for the first time, saw a DJ there, Billy the Clit. And I was like, wow, this is fucking cool. Like he's able to show
Was it
up.
like Albufeira or something?
Yeah. And he Kiss Club. And he didn't even have to carry his own stuff. So I was like, you just pull up with a USB stick, and just plug it in and play and control like the room. I was like, wow, that's the type of DJ I want to be. So from that point, I started taking it more serious.
What age was that?
17, 18.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, cool.
And then started producing as well. It sounded like shit, but I was doing it. And then it took me another 4 to 5 years, I think, before I launched Sam Feldt and got my first record signed to Spin In. So I'd been DJing since I was 11, restarted it when I was 17, and then at 21, I think I got my first break, you know?
Cool.
Yeah, and before that, it was just begging, like, can I please play in your club? Can I warm up?
You had to carry your own stuff to the club.
Yeah. Carry my own stuff. Like
Yeah.
I spent a summer in Turkey where I had to literally promote the club in the streets, pull people in, and then when I had enough people in, then I could play. So I was both a promoter and a DJ.
That's cool for people to hear, because like you wouldn't expect that. To see
and I did it
where
for
you're
free.
at
I did it for free. I paid my own flight.
Yeah, because you loved it. You wanted it so bad, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think that's cool for people to hear, because everyone's got to start somewhere. And also, you're not there like in a heartbeat. It takes years, to few years, right?
Yeah.
No, 100%. And people don't see those years. So that's, it's cliche to say, but like, keep pushing. Because there's plenty of times where I said to myself, Sam, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you've been trying to DJ for 3-4 years now. You're not getting booked. Nobody wants to pay you to DJ. Maybe you're just not good enough, man. And get a normal job and call it quits. But then, you know.
Have you ever been on the verge of quitting?
Yeah, many times.
Music?
Yeah. And the last deadline I set for myself was when I finished my degree at college or university. I said, okay, that's going to be a point where I decide, okay, after my degree, am I going to pursue music? Am I going to pursue a normal career, or maybe my web design business or whatever? And then I still remember, like, in May is when I graduated, and in May is when I signed my publishing contract, which was the first recognition that I got externally, like, hey, you're doing something right, and this could actually become your career. So that was just enough sparkle. It wasn't a lot. It was, I maybe signed a $2,000 deal, and like it was, but it was something. There's something there, just enough to keep going. Yeah,
that's the first impression that you get. Like, wow, like a $2,000 deal. If I can do that, then I can also do this times 10 at some stage. Because when you're an entrepreneur, there is no limit.
Exactly.
So I guess it gave you some confidence. Like, if I can do this, we can also
and
double it and double it again.
And you have to find like and celebrate those small successes, which is also a cliche, but it's very true, because at the beginning they might be very small and they need to give you enough confidence and enough of a boost to keep going. And if you only think like, hey, okay, I want to go from 0 to 100K,
exactly. That's
you're gonna be very demotivated, because it is a long road.
You're gonna feel like you're failing every time.
Exactly.
Because you didn't reach that one big goal. But
I mean, I still do. So
no, it's probably worse now than it was when I started. It's like I was so happy with, like, let's say on social media with getting a couple of comments, right? And now when you get like 100, maybe it's not even that much now. Or when it comes to your income, like I started with online coaching, so maybe my programs were like 200 euros. But I also had a side job where I was making 8 euros an hour, or less than 10. So that was unreal for me. And so, like, how happy I was with my first sale, I will not be as happy, you know, when I hit like 100K. I was not as happy as the first sale, which is kind of crazy.
No, true.
But I think maybe you could tell, like, even like making multi-millions,
it's
like
you're
at some stage, I don't think it really gives you that same high anymore.
I think there's you're constantly competing against yourself, so the bar is constantly set higher, which also means that you have to work harder and reach bigger goals in order to get that same dopamine rush that you got when you earned your first, you know, when you saw your first scores, which is why it's so addictive. You know, and it's also the trap, you know, like, I'm sure you're aware as well, I'm aware too, that like if you are an addict, you are an addict to success. And it's the same with drugs. The more you take, the more you need. So and you have to be aware of that, because otherwise you end up a workaholic or a junkie or in burnout, right? So
you're gonna be very unhappy.
So and I think that's something that you need to always get in balance, and people say, hey, you don't need balance. I think you do need some sort of balance. And I think the balance is, for me, is not about tempering my expectations or my ambitions. It's more about living in the future versus living in a moment. That's like, and I used to always only live in the future, which led me to never live in the present, which in the end, if you die, is a pretty miserable way of have lived, right?
Yeah.
Because you were never really there for it. And it sounds very, well, I'm sure you cover meditation as well, which sounds mystical and spiritual, but in the end, it's not. It's just living life and being here for it instead of not being here for it.
If you think about the best moments when you're in this state of flow, as we can also call it, those are the best moments, and when you have a conversation with someone, you're not thinking about, like in this podcast now, you're not thinking about what am I going to say next, like am I going to say the next, you're like in this state of flow, and then you get a good experience with people. But I believe the same thing is for yourself. You can train yourself to constantly get back into that moment during the day, but it's tough because situations happen and things happen, so it's easy to fall into that trap of thinking about just the future. Then there's the other side of people who only think about the past, right? So we have both sides of the spectrum. Now, last year I did have a burnout, and this was actually something that I was doing a lot, like constantly worrying about the future. There were a lot of things involved as well, but this was definitely one of them, as you say. And so that has really helped me connect,
And there's no, you can really go tunnel vision on it because there's no answer. Because anything can happen, right? So if you want to make yourself crazy, go down that route. That's the way to go because you're never going to find the answer because you never really know, and that's maybe also the beauty of it is looking at it more as if your life's a movie that you're watching unfold. Then you have to direct every scene of it, and that's also something that I had to let go of because I am a control freak in the sense that I love things like biohacking, which we spoke about, and that's in a sense also a kind of like false hope. Right? Because who knows, I might die tomorrow. And then I have lived this great healthy life, and I take all the right supplements, and I did, cold plunges, and then I get hit by.
It was all optimal.
Until
it wasn't.
And then and then you get hit by a bus.
And then there is no future.
So and of course those things are all great.
Yeah, but there's a fine line, fine balance of it.
And I think they're great as a tool to feel better in the present. But then make sure that you're there for it and not just looking at the future.
How did you learn all this? Because from what you're telling, it sounds like you didn't always live like this. So was there a certain moment that made you change your thinking, or is it more gradually?
It's very gradual. Like it's there's a couple of moments I literally got hit by a car. So that then I broke my tibia. I couldn't walk or play shows for 2 months. I was stuck in my mom's house because I couldn't even enter my own house anymore because I had the stairs. So that was a making and breaking point, kind of literal break, but it made my mindset different. COVID definitely helped because it's also like this emergency break, right? But my standard mode is always going. So it will forever be a challenge or a battle against myself to keep staying in the present, not go too far, don't take on too many projects because that's not how I normally am. So I'm not there yet. I'm never there.
You have to consciously remind yourself to live in the moment or to do your meditation practice or...
But that is difficult because that's obviously one part of the puzzle, but then there's the other part that if you only live in the moment and you only focus on those things, then you don't achieve what you have achieved, right?
True.
Because you also need to work freaking hard.
True.
So but there's like two sides to the...
But you can only do that in the moment.
That's true.
So if you're worried about something in your business going wrong, the only thing you can do productively is in the moment fix it.
True.
Right?
True.
Worrying about it is not going to fix it, right? So then you're still in the moment.
That's very
Taking
right.
care of business, right?
That's true.
That's very right.
Yeah.
You have to think a few steps ahead, but if you're thinking too many steps ahead, you're gonna overthink everything because it's impossible to know what will happen.
And maybe take time, take 30 minutes for planning, and then execute.
Yeah. Set goals.
Instead of allowing yourself to think 24 hours per day about the future, say, okay, I'm going to spend an hour thinking about the future, planning, and then I'm going to let go of that and in the moment execute on those things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it can be very dreamlike.
Yeah.
And nothing
and you
happens.
never get into action. I think execute that part is really important. Yeah.
100%. Like, otherwise you're just dreaming, which is sometimes nice.
Which is also good. But then at some stage you need to do something to make the dream a reality.
True.
So, like, what would you say are some of the most important things you've learned about, or changes in your mindset that have helped you get to where you are? And obviously now you're in a more, that was kind of the point that I was trying to make with the hard work. Because I feel like that's how it is for most like successful people. They are now at a stage where, they have sort of like a security, or like they made loads of money and they have a name for themselves. And then they can worry a bit more, obviously, about the perfect balance and about taking rest and all those things. Mm-hmm. But how was it for you starting out? Do you think that's also a good strategy when you're starting? Or is that how you started? Or were you like what would you say are the biggest things there?
I think it's it might be a little different. Like, it depends. Like, if you're 13 or 15 or 18 or 20 or I don't know, like early 20s, like I'm now 29, so I already consider myself to be old, which maybe I'm not.
Same. Age matters. I've been feeling it the last few years.
Yeah. So and I think those lessons count at any point.
Yeah,
because
I think so too.
Because you can never work in the future. You can always work in the present, and you can always spend too much time dreaming or being stressed about a future you cannot control. So I think those lessons are valuable. But of course, I mean, if you're just starting off, you need to hustle. You need to put in the work. You need to make sure that stuff actually happens. And the other side of it is, like, if you never really get to executing or the first step, and I think a lot of people are stuck in that phase where they have a great idea and maybe they've started writing a business plan, but they haven't started the business.
Yeah.
And I think, especially if you're still young, why not just start and learn along the way? And I think that would be my main piece of advice, is to just start it. Take the first step and take the second, and don't look at the end yet. When you have a business that is solid, you might look at an exit or whatever. And of course, it's nice to dream about it, but just go register the company. Just go sell your first, course or product, whatever and then learn as you go. Yeah.
What would you say to people that are really afraid of failure?
Yeah, I think that's the main question, is like, what are you afraid of? And of course, I mean, like I said, there's always a calculated risk. And I think that's also the game of entrepreneurship, is taking risks that other people don't want to take, because that's where, the magic kind of happens. And of course, look into things like insurance, look into things like, but don't do that before you start. Just start. Like, if you start, there's very little to lose and a lot to gain, right? Because you don't have anything yet. So unless you're going to take on a big loan, like 10 million, and you don't have any plan to pay it back, might be a little risky. So definitely talk to your lawyer about that. But most people don't start like that. They start with, buying $500 worth of stock and running your first Facebook campaign, or getting your first coaching client or whatever.
That's very true. I agree with your point. Although there is this other fear of failure part that maybe you experience yourself a little bit more as well. It's maybe the fear of, like, what will other people think? And that's a fear that I've had a lot as well.
That's what Sam said. Like, if you're afraid of failure, you got to ask yourself, what am I afraid of? I think that's one of the most important questions, because if people say, oh, don't be afraid, just do it, that's good advice, but it doesn't work unless you have evaluated, like, what am I afraid of? Mm-hmm. And if you're afraid of huge debts, then it's easy. Don't
get into debt.
Yeah, don't get into debt. But if you're really afraid of what are people going to think if I'm doing this, they might think I'm crazy or stupid, then that's something that you can work around as well. But you cannot do it if you don't know what you're scared of.
And maybe that's my own my own vision on it, because for some reason, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I've never had those thoughts. Right. So I've never cared, to be honest. And I know, for example, Michelle, my wife, she's now launching a company. She's very considerate of what are people going to think, and it's very hard for me to get into that mindset, because I've never felt it. So for me, a risk is always like something concrete, like debt or a lawsuit or like a fight with your business partner. Maybe also a little bit more male versus female. I don't know. I think it's easier. I think sometimes for a man to be very, to switch off emotions for a little bit. But on the other side, like, if there are things in your mind that you need to deal with, those are more, I don't know, like blockers inside of yourself. And then it's good to question, okay, what am I afraid of? And so what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yeah.
So ask yourself that question if you're at home sitting now and you're thinking, I want to start something.
Yeah,
What is holding me back, you know?
I mean,
And it's difficult to fight. It's not that easy as asking yourself, and you know it directly. But you might probably the thing that pops up is probably the thing that's holding you back.
Yeah. And if it's something external, I would always look at the alternative, right? So the alternative is you play by everybody else's rules. You never get criticized, but you know
what happens if I don't take the risk?
Yeah. I mean, I think then looking back at your life in maybe 50 years. You're gonna feel regret, and that's I think the last thing you want to feel when you're old and maybe too old to start, right? So why not take the risk and fuck what people think, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
What works for me really well also is instead of thinking it as me myself, I think like, what if my friend wanted to do this? Would I think that he or she was stupid? Because I don't know why, but certain
we're hard on
values.
ourselves.
Yeah, we're hard on. At least I can be hard on myself, and I can be so different when I'm talking to somebody else and really supportive. So
yeah, no, exactly. I think that's a really good way to look at it because that places you in the third party instead of the ego, and the ego is always very protective about itself, like afraid of attack from other people. So if you place it outside the ego and just ask the question like, is this a stupid idea or not? No, it sounds there might be some merit in it. Okay, let's do it then. You know.
Right on.
And maybe sometimes it helps to get like a co-founder, right? Because like a lot of businesses that are successful, they're usually not run by one person, and they can help each other, push through when the times get tough or when they get insecure. And
if you know each other's weaknesses, then you can act on it. Yeah.
That would be maybe also be a good tip from my side is don't try to do everything yourself, which counts in many ways, but also when it comes to founding the company, because especially if you're having issues taking those first steps, having like a training buddy, like a workout buddy, right?
Like
keep you pulling you to the gym, keeping you accountable.
Partner,
And you both, you both share something so big that you both want to really succeed at. So that brings me to my next point, and we've talked about this a couple times. For me, you've given me some great advice on growing my team over the years, and a lot of other things that I've struggled with. Sam has always helped me out greatly, and I'm wondering for you, like with, as you just say, having a co-founder is great, having people that you work with. Like, how do you find those people? Like, how did you find your first co-founder or someone that you work with?
I think in the beginning, you just roll with it, right? My first co-founders were just people that I knew from where I grew up. And they were one of the few people that would actually, were entrepreneurial in my small town of Boxel, where I'm from. So let's do something together, because you just pick the best of the worst. Like, I'm not saying they were the worst, but it's like you have a small group of people in your network, and you just say, hey, this guy wants to run a business and start a business. I want to do it too. Common interest, let's do it. So, and then I think as you grow your network, you can get a little bit more picky, and you come across people that are, more complementary in skill set, that, might be in the same industry, might have more experience than you. I always, when you're launching like a tech thing, a tech startup or like a tech product, you always want to have somebody involved that knows tech, right? If you don't know how to code, get someone that knows how to code. If you do know how to code, get someone that knows how to sell or market, because those are the skills that you're going to need, the product and the sales, right? So I think as you kind of trial and error a little bit, you get better business partners, and you make mistakes too. I made mistakes as well.
Okay, what are some of those?
Well, the wrong co-founder, having to buy people out, or realizing after the fact that like you make a certain plan, but then they're not accountable, or they're not putting in the same amount of work as you are. Things like communication issues, like different ways of communicating. I think those are all things that you kind of figure out as you go, and I think it's impossible to not make those mistakes, because
I think so too.
You
gave me all the perfect advice back then, but I still made the mistakes.
Yeah, but
I had to learn from it, and now I get it. And I was like,
it's the same as
it just happens
when you hire somebody, right? So you can take 10 job interviews, but you're never going to know until the first day or the first month if it's actually the person that you need.
Yeah.
So you just need to try it out. And there's, of course, some things you can do to minimize those risks.
Definitely.
Like work freelance first, work together on a small project before you dive into the big one. Like work with the people that you worked in the past with, that you have good experiences with. So there's some things you can do definitely to minimize your risk.
I think that's a very good point as well. Like start small, you know, because when you're very often people start business together, and I've done this as well at like a younger age when you're very excited, enthusiastic. Maybe someone like a close friend or someone in your school or maybe even family. First, start out small, you know, because you don't. It all sounds great on paper, and when you're friends with someone, you know, you get into the flow and you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's going to be it. But then reality kicks in of life, and I think that's crucial. Yeah.
And you see that also with the biggest companies in the world, like the PayPal mafia. Like you see the guys from like Elon Musk, Keith Rabois, like all these guys. They started and then they had success, and then they started another company with someone from that company, and then it was a success. And then you kind of build a record, like you build like a paper trail, and you see, okay, these guys actually do their job. And you run something else with them, and then the chances of success increase every time because you know what everybody's worth.
Yeah.
You know.
And we want to say congratulations on your marriage. And
Thank you.
That gives me a question about like growing a team, but also you work together with your wife.
Yeah.
Any tips? It's my girlfriend, not my wife. Not my wife yet. We'll have, like I was looking at that.
Plans?
Like, this looks like a fairy tale. Yeah, it's amazing. The wedding. So.
I don't know. Like I think it's the same. It's kind of. It goes against a lot of the advice that's out there. I've started businesses with all my friends, which they say you should never do. I started businesses, with my wife, you know, we run the label, she runs like marketing. And I think the same counts there, like start small. Like Michelle, she started like doing stuff for Fengage. And then I realized we could actually work together and communicate on a business level. So then she took over the whole operations there, and then once she figured out that was not the perfect fit, but she wanted to do more with music, you know, I knew that those qualities that she had within Fengage would be very beneficial in the label. So then you kind of build it up, and now we run the label, we run publishing, like we do a lot of stuff together, but it's only because you started somewhere.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
And I don't know, like I think it's a lot of fun to work together as well, and I think it's a lot of fun to work together with your friends as well.
Yeah, true.
Like I don't need to separate business from pleasure because
you love it so much.
Yeah, I love it, and it's also fun. Like I think it's fun to talk with my friends or with Nick, my co-founder in Fengage, about business. Yeah. And not just our business, but also like his business is mine. Like you can go take your relationship a little bit deeper than just having fun with your friends, which is of course important. But I always like to take it one step further.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we feel the same way, and we've been also like trying some different things because she's a photographer. We've also done a lot of photo and video things together, and sometimes a little bit like should we do this together, or then it's maybe you're together all the time, so then it becomes like maybe too much.
I think that makes it work for me as well. It's also the fact that I'm still touring.
Yeah, so you just have a little bit of separation. Exactly. Yeah.
And that keeps it fun in business and privately as well. And you have stories to tell each other outside of the stories that you already know because you're part of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I find that important too. But it's a lot of fun doing it together, and you know each other so well that you know it really strengthens each other.
100%.
If it's right.
It's impossible to keep it completely separate anyways, because
like
you want to know what's happening in each other's lives, and especially since you're both trying to you're both entrepreneurs, you're going to talk about what's going on in your business as well. So
you're always busy with it in your head too, like with your mission and what you want to do and your passion. And
I think
we're both very passionate people, so
it's a lot easier to keep things separate when you have like a 9 to 5, I guess, in the sense that because you can literally close the book and then say, okay, now it's time for us, right?
True.
Well, that's very challenging if you both run a business, right? So you have to be able to communicate also on that level and understand like what it's like, because I think otherwise there could be a lot of misunderstanding around the situations or the stress or maybe even the freedom, like to take a day off. That could also be like if you have a partner that works a 9 to 5 and you decide I'm going to go to the beach today, because it also has perks. So sometimes we talk about the stress and like
that's I wanted to ask you, like, has there ever been moments where you think like, I wish I would just have a 9 to 5 and I would just be done at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean that thought comes up quite often.
Same.
And
it's been there.
But it never really materializes.
It's not a serious thought, though. It's like a little imagination of.
And
what,
you've never
how that would
actually
be.
had a 9 to 5, right? So.
No, I had a part-time job before, so I know what it's like to work for someone.
Oh yeah.
But it's not like 9 to 5 at all. And I think we always think that the grass is greener on the other side, right? So if you're working a 9 to 5, you think, that guy is running his own business and he's making a lot of money and he's like constantly on a holiday, and they don't see the stresses that come with that. But on the other side, you can also like romanticize taking a full week off. Like, when is the last thing you ever done that? Like, or maybe you did it recently, like
Paris for her birthday, but that was a few weeks ago.
That was 5 days. That was a lot.
A week.
And a week, and a week is not even. But let's say some people like they go on a holiday for 4 weeks.
Yeah. I know.
And I'm like, and they just don't work at all.
But I'm like, if I'm laying there I just get ideas and I just want to like do something.
Well, then you're in the good profession, the right angle.
Yeah. I am now, but there's also been times where that was different. Like obviously before the burnout, when I was enjoying it all a little bit less, then I really wanted a vacation,
Yeah.
And that's not a life that I want to live. So I was like, something is going wrong here. Even though I was doing financially really well and everything to the outside world was perfect, I was like, just stressed out all the time. And then so I think for people that live in that life where you feel like you have a lot of obligations, you feel like I need to do this, I need to do that, instead of follow just like your pure passion, right? Then that can become really thing, like looking forward to the next vacation and the next vacation. While I'm looking for, like every morning I wake up right now and I'm like hyped for another day, and that's great to be there, but sometimes it goes like this a little bit, right?
100%. Yeah. And I think that it's important to catch those signals early. Because they never lie. It's like when you feel tired, you're most likely tired. When you feel stressed, you're most likely too stressed.
Yeah.
And it's much harder, as you know, to fix it after the fact than as you go and steer. And of course, I think everybody feels when they look at their calendar like, or like I'm excited for this day, but I'm not excited for this day, right?
True. Yeah.
And I'm not saying you should only do things that make you super excited, because that's
not realistic.
That's not realistic. Yeah. But if you see that things are recurring that don't excite you, try and get somebody else to do them. Hire somebody or maybe just say like, this is not my thing. Is anyone else available to pick this up, or get an assistant or something like that? Yeah.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
So you talked a bit about biohacking before. We've talked about that a lot, and just like your strategies with like optimal performance and everything. You've had some gadgets. What was that?
We're always seeing on Instagram that you like to buy new gadgets, like health gadgets, like you get a new foot massager or.
You have the Aura ring. Now you have a real ring.
I traded it in for something better, and I have the infrared sauna. I've got like all these the Theraguns and stuff like that. I like gadgets, and I always love to try things out. I also have the 8 Sleeps mattress that has like it has like a variable body temperature thing, so it wakes you up at your perfect body temperature. It's like I like those things. 9 out of 10 times I end up not using them consistently because it's hard to push something like that into your schedule. And sometimes you can also overdo it, right? You can make a morning routine that's so elaborate that you never have to work again, right? So
very true. It's very much popularized now.
Yeah. So if you spend 3 hours getting ready, I mean I don't know if that's very productive. But there's a couple of things that I like to do, and usually they're pretty basic. And I think as you live a lifestyle where you travel a lot, you tour a lot, the basics are even more important. So
what are those basics for you?
So for me, sleep. Sleep is, I think, the most important thing, because if you don't sleep well, and then you stack training on top of that, you stack food on top of that,
Yeah, studies just show like even after one night of like half the amount of sleep that you normally get, you're like literally half as productive. So it doesn't make sense.
Exactly, and then also the work you do in the gym isn't as productive, and you start making the wrong decisions when it comes to food. So for me, sleep is the most important thing.
How many hours?
I would say for me it's a little more because I've got a lot of sleep debt. So I like to like sleep 8 to 9. Yeah. So
And what else next to sleep? Like what does your morning routine look like, for example?
So what I always like to do in the morning is, well, first get out of bed. I think a lot of people they stay in bed too long, and I when I do it myself, I always feel like shit. So I'm not just talking about snoozing, but also like just laying in bed, looking at your phone, all that. Just get up,
scrolling.
Yeah, I think.
Do you snooze or
I don't.
You get out?
No, I don't snooze, but I sometimes I don't get out of bed, and then I'm there another 30 minutes, already doing work in like on my phone. Like that's just the wrong start of the day. And it's so easy to do it because it's right there and you're addicted because I mean I'm an addict. Like I'm definitely addicted to my phone.
Hi, my name is Sam.
I'm an addict. So this is not perfect, but in my most ideal day, I'd get out of bed, take a shower. I do intermittent fasting, so I don't eat in the mornings. Have a nice good cup of coffee, cold exposure, so some sort of cold shower or cryo or something like that.
Yeah, that cryotherapy with you. That was crazy, man.
Yeah,
it's dope. Yeah,
it's dope, and you can do it like in your bathtub or in the shower as well.
Yeah,
sauna. So usually sauna and then something cold, so like a shower. So this morning I went to the gym, had a session there, sauna, cold shower, and you're good to go. And that's like how I like to start the day. In the most ideal way, but sometimes you don't sleep if you're on like if you're DJing and you're on tour, or only a few hours and you don't have time to do all that. So that's why I say sleep is first, because if I can choose between sleeping 6 hours and having my full morning routine, or 8 hours and no morning routine, I can choose 8 hours of sleep, because in the end that's what matters for me the most. Yeah.
How do you do it, like while traveling? Is it you just focus on the sleep, or is there anything else?
I think if you get that down, you're already doing pretty well.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult to put all the right stuff in that weekend. So, for example, like on Friday, I've got 4 shows this weekend, Friday to Monday, and I'm in the US, so that means 9 hours time difference, one long haul flight getting there, and then another shorter one to get to the final destination. And that also means that by the time I finish my show and I want to go to bed, it's already the morning here, so I can't sleep. So there's a couple of things that, like, of course, there's some supplements, there's some minerals, vitamins, and stuff that I take while I'm on tour, and also some melatonin to help cope with the jet lag and stuff like that. But I think if you can get those 8 hours in a weekend that has 4 shows and very minimal time in between, that's already good. I used to stress myself out and squeeze like 2 gym sessions in a busy weekend like that, and that only decreased my sleep
and your energy, I guess.
And increased my stress.
Yeah.
And I wasn't taking into account that I already did 4 cardio sessions, which was my DJ.
On stage.
And that's what I realized when I started wearing the Aura Ring. I was burning 1,000 calories during the DJ sets. So I was like, okay, that's fine. That's enough. It's enough gym work for this weekend. Yeah.
That's a good point. Obviously, a lot of people that are listening and watching have been following me since the gym lifestyle, and very often you compare like your routine to someone else's routine, but then someone who may be an artist like you, jumping around on stage. Obviously, there's not that many people listening. But let's say you have a physical job, then it's a lot different for you to go to the gym 6 days a week than it is for me if that's what I make a living off, and I sleep a lot, I rest a lot, and I have like a desk job, or like I'm out filming or whatever, but I'm not carrying heavy stuff.
Exactly.
So you have to make the fitness routine and the diets all very personal.
It is, it is, and it's quite easy to strive for perfection, and that's something that I think a lot of people do, and therefore then they stick to a routine for a week, and then the discipline or the focus fades away, and then you go back to zero. Instead, I think you should go for, aim for 50% and keep it going, because that's in the end going to be a lot more efficient than doing everything
yeah.
right for a week and then
Exactly.
stop it. Yeah.
It's better to start with one new habit that will help you change, for instance, sleeping. And if that works out for you, you can add another one to it instead
True.
of trying to do everything perfect.
True.
It's
True.
like what you said, you're going to have a morning routine to have a morning routine instead of have a morning routine because it's a means to your goal.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hype, and it's also it's so nice to read about all these fantastic, successful people and how they do it, and try to copy it in your own life. While 9 out of 10 times it's completely made up. It's just a clickbait, and if there's some truth in it, I'm not sure they do it every morning. I'm not sure they do it while traveling, while working. Like it's the perfect world, and so I would say cherry pick what works for you, and
Yeah, it's a very good point. I've been reading a lot of books, and I've always been in self-improvements for so long. You as well, you know, like you've read a lot of books that we shared. The thing is, like I've tried out a lot of different morning routines as well, and sometimes a morning routine works for a while, and then maybe it's like too much. Let's say the time when I was really stressed out and I was trying to get back on my feet with my business, then it really helped me to do this little, like very overextensive morning routine, you know, where I would do like and journaling and like writing down what I'm grateful for and the task for the day and like all kinds of different stuff to also just make me feel better, and meditation. And I did them all at the same time. It's a bit much, you know, most people are not going to be able to sustain that. It's going to take too much time, as you say. And when I'm in more of a grind phase, then I may skip one of those steps, you know, or I will do like a shorter meditation. Yeah, and sometimes I don't do a meditation at all for a while. Like it's not that you have to do it in order to, you know, to produce results, but it's just it can go in phases, and whatever, you know, that you're currently dealing with will help you the most. That's the most important. Yeah.
True, and I think keep an eye on if your morning routine is not making you more stressed. True, I think that's the moment when you start to scale it down,
you
right?
Cannot do that. No.
Yeah, so I had like especially during COVID. I mean, I had a lot more time, but there was a period exactly where I did all those things that you should be doing, and in the end, I was just getting more stressed because I would wake up and have this whole thing that I needed to complete before I could actually start doing what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I think, you know, if it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't or it's causing you stress, drop it, or drop at least some of it. Yeah.
Very good.
But basics, I mean, exercise, food, sleep first. I guess that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. So wondering about your family and the influence that they've had. You've talked about it a little bit. Heard before that you called your parents a bit like hippies in terms of the lifestyle back in the day. Like what would you say are some beliefs that they had that you know learned from them and that you've used in your life? And maybe something different than what they had.
Well, maybe that's also they helped me not be afraid because, like I grew up we grew up living with very little, right? So if I had to go back to that, I know I'd be fine because I'd been fine doing that for many years. They have a strong belief that, you know, you shouldn't take more than you need. So growing your own vegetables in the garden and stuff like that, and that's also what led me to launch the Heart Fed Foundation, which is, you know, kind of like my way of trying to continue to make people happy around the world with my music, but do it also in a way where it kind of lives up to the values that they shared with me and allows, you know, maybe my children to also enjoy it, you know. So I think that's kind of the values that I grew up with.
That's amazing that you've been able to translate that into your business and your vision too.
But I think that's also the reason why I've never been fearful about losing it all, because you start with nothing, and then you're like, okay, well now I've got this. Okay, what if it halves in value? Fine, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, and that's maybe what leads you to make more impulsive or scary decisions, but also what helps you.
But it can also pay off. It's really the abundance mindset, right? That you have.
Yeah, true. And you can, I think abundance can be different ways. Like can be abundance, like there's enough for everybody, which I believe, you know, I don't believe that because you have A, I can't have A. But it's also about like, I think being able to live with yourself without anything, you know, like, and going back to the shitty apartment, and we, like me and Michelle spoke about, like, if we lost all this, fine, you know, okay, would be, and like it's not something that scares me to lose it, and I think that's also what makes you take bigger risks. I guess. Yeah.
And what are some of the things that maybe the values that were not necessarily values, but like beliefs that were installed in you that you had to change? Maybe it has to do with money. Like, what was the money mindset of your parents? And
well, my dad was very anti-capitalist. Like he literally wrote like protest songs against the government and big capitalist companies. So that was kind of how I was brought up. But I think I kind of countercultured that and looked at, okay, what are the key ingredients to a happy life? And I think being able to have some sort of financial freedom is part of that, and of course you don't have to be super rich, but you have to be rich enough to not worry about money, right? Yeah. And some people can become billionaires and never get that rich.
Very true.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I
there
think
are a lot of rich people that
still worry a lot about money, right?
And
so
even
I think,
like commit suicide and all those things, right?
Yeah. So I think that's and I think another belief is, well, they always let me very free in what I wanted to do, and in one way I agree with that, and one way I think you should maybe give your child some more boundaries, but like, if I would, raise a child myself, I would want him or her to be able to pursue their passion in the same way that I was allowed to do it. Because I think because they let me launch my company when I was 13, because they let me sit behind the computer for eight hours a day. Sometimes I had to play outside, but I was able to become good at what I now do. And I think you can get an enormous advantage at a young age, because then you're like, you can learn languages so easily when you're young, right? Like if you put a child in an environment where they only speak Spanish, they will start to speak Spanish, and the same counts for any skill. So I think if your child has a passion for music and wants to play the piano for 10 hours a day, fucking go with it. I mean, it might be the next Mozart, right? So letting that restrictive environment loosen up a little bit, I think. And if my dad wouldn't have gone with me to the Chamber of Commerce, I would have done it another way.
You would have found a different way to do.
Or just did it and not file taxes and be very illegal. So I think you gotta kind of. Of course, there has to be some sort of limit to it, and but I think I can be quite helpful in that sense. Hopefully, in letting them make their own mistakes, but also possibly teaching or mentoring a little bit if they want to.
If that's what they're interested in. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. We've talked a lot about mindset and different beliefs and all those things. Now I'm kind of like wondering about skill set, because you've acquired a lot of skills over the years as well. And like sometimes I wonder, especially with like a world famous DJ, how much of it is talent and how much of it is skill. Now that's obviously impossible to measure, right? But I think you a little bit get the idea. And then like how realistic is it that anyone can do anything? But with those thoughts come the question: it's like, what do you think are the 3 most important skills that like anyone can learn, regardless of the talent that they have, if they want to become an artist or an entrepreneur and want to do something different?
Oh yeah, I think it's communication. One, I think that's at the center of everything. And if you're a bad communicator and you don't know how to bring across a message, either commercially or within the company,
very good, or with music,
or music, but that's a different way of communicating, I guess. I mean, like basic writing and speaking skills, in the sense that you know how to, when you have an idea in your mind, you know how to bring that across, briefly, like, and so people understand what you mean. Another skill I think is mindfulness. In every field, I think it's super valuable. Because like what we spoke about, the only time you can do something is now, and the sooner you realize that and are able to cut off a lot of the distraction, a lot of the chatter in your head, the sooner you get to that goal. And I think some financial skills. I think a lot of DJs, they are so focused on their craft, their creative craft, right? So making music and playing music, that they have zero. And I'm not saying you should be a CFO or should like study finance at all, but like just basic stuff, basic business stuff, because I see a lot of talent being wasted because they don't know the basics around like building a company or building a brand, and then also the financial stuff behind it. So then they focus completely, they rely completely on their accountant, and then the accountant screws them over and they don't even see it. Or their manager screws them over and they don't see it. So being able to understand a statement, being able to understand what a yearly report looks like of a company, and you know, those things, and it can help, and that counts for an artist, an entrepreneur, but also a painter. Just by
exactly. And you don't know how many years the run is going to be for, right? If you gain all this traction all of a sudden.
I think that's a step further, but like financial planning, like investing your money that you've earned through your craft in the right way, so that, you know, like a football player, like they have a limited lifespan. I think DJs, while there are exceptions that are above 50 years old, like a lot of them, they kind of rise and fall, right? So,
that's great advice, man, honestly. How do you use those skills like for your own businesses right now?
So right now I run a couple of businesses. A lot of them are involved with the music side. So we've got Feldt, which is the umbrella brand of Sam Feldt. So everything that's not touring and Sam Feldt music related is under Feldt, which is my community that runs on Fengage, but we'll get to that in a little bit. We got a publishing company, a record label, events, a non-profit. So those are like the Heartfelt companies. I've got Always Bright, the performance supplements that I spoke with you about as well. And then I've got Fengage, which has been kind of like my main Opus One kind of project for the last couple of years. Launched in 2016 out of my own frustration of not having access to my own audience. I saw back then already that, you know, even though I had an X amount of followers, all these people weren't seeing my posts anymore, and it was getting worse and worse. Now it's a complete shit show.
Instagram is dying. So like just a little percentage of the people that follow you will see your posts.
Exactly. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm playing this room with 1,000 people. What if I could, you know, reach 100% of my audience? Can I maybe play a stadium? You know, because I have the fans, I have the listeners. They clicked the button. They said, "Hey, I like this guy. I like Sam Feldt," and then I can reach them. So that was the idea behind Fengage, and we kind of grew that to where it is right now, which is, you know, basically an all-in-one system for creators.
Fengage is a really cool platform. I've used it myself as well. We started maybe 1.5 years ago, something like that. I really like the idea, and there's a lot of improvements that you guys have made over all these years as well. The team has really started growing, and there's a lot of amazing features that have been added to.
True.
But just the first idea, really revolutionary idea, by the way, in 2016, when, you know, things were still pretty good on social media.
That was before Patreon started,
Yeah.
before OnlyFans started, before all these other platforms that, you know, allow you to grab kind of your audience and monetize it.
Yeah.
So we were one of the first, luckily not the fastest, but we still were able to like make it into a cool platform that we're now able to sell also to Triller. So it's nice to have been able to be at the forefront of it.
Yeah. And I've used it personally and I would recommend this to, you know, anyone that's an influencer, probably above a certain level of followers. But even if you don't have that many followers, it's just really cool because you can do like a lead magnet in a much more like fun way, more accessible for people. Because for example, when you have people sign up to an email list, it's or like a newsletter, that's really old school, right?
School. Yeah.
It's very old school and it doesn't really work. People don't want that spam. And so now you get them on a platform which looks really cool. You can do like your own branding and all that. And it's quite fun because you can unlock certain content. So you put some content on there. For me, let's say I do a giveaway, I can do it there, or do an exclusive video. It'll not be an OnlyFans type video. It'll be like actual valuable stuff to really connect with the fans. And then they have to unlock it by, you can decide a percentage. And when you do a higher percentage, you have to leave like their phone number and the city they're from. And something cool that you can do with that. Like I haven't really done that, but I could do it with like meetups and stuff. You know exactly where those people are coming from. So I see like a map, and I think there are like, I have like over like 100 or something countries that are like on my Fengage platform, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then you can see exactly where those people are from. So let's say I want to do a meetup in South Africa. When I'm in South Africa, I can send a text message, because you can do that on platform too.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yo guys, I'm here, I have a meetup.
That's how I use it.
So cool. Yeah.
I use it to sell out my shows, because I know like I can always reach, like in New York, 1,000 people that I know they're gonna bring other people as well, because they're actual fans. Like they've signed up, they've went through the process.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you get some value from it as well. But there's like I said, if any creators are watching, I think it would be cool to check it out.
Yeah, because just imagine like doing a post for me, like let's say I'm in South Africa doing a meetup. If I post on Instagram, the people from South Africa may not even see it, you know.
And the people that are not there, you spam the wrong people, and they might see it. They're like, why is he showing me a photo like about a South Africa meetup? I'm in New York.
Exactly.
And the people that are in South Africa, they might not even see it because of the algorithm. So it's a very good way to target the fans that you need to reach.
It's just so important to gather data, and I've said this like always since I started my YouTube journey. I may not be the biggest influencer, but I've done well in terms of my businesses, especially when you look at other influencers over the years that have like maybe died down a little bit in terms of likes or followers. And if that happens to me now, like I have my people on different platforms, right? And whether that is Fengage, it can be an email list, or it can be a CRM system, which Fengage also is. Like there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but it's just really important to have your own data.
Own your audience.
Own your audience. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So what are the developments there with like the new investors and all that? How did that go?
So we recently reached a deal with Triller to sell the company. We're still staying involved. We're just becoming part of a bigger group, which where the vision is to create a creator hub. So, for example, they have Clicks, which is a SMS marketing service that allows two-way communication. We only allow one way.
Right.
So we're building that into the product as a feature. Influencer deals. They acquired a deal engine, a deal search engine for influencer marketing. We're building that into Fengage. So in the end, the idea is for Fengage to become an all-in-one creator hub for any creator to own, engage, and monetize their audience. So that's the grand vision. So we're building that out.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
no, I believe in it, and I believe in you, Sam. Like honestly, for the level where you're at in terms of all the things that you're doing, I found it like crazy how involved you still are in Fengage. You know. Like respect for the amount of work that you still put in.
Yeah, it's a passion project also, and I think that comes out of the fact that I'm sure you've had it too. Is that it comes out of a frustration that you just can't let go of, right?
Yeah, those are the best ideas.
And an injustice, you know. It almost feels like, you know, like we're part of a movement. I wrote a declaration of creatorindependence.com. That's like so it's basically just an open letter about everything that's wrong in the creator economy, where creators are fueling platforms that are not theirs, but they don't reap the benefits. And Mark Zuckerberg's getting crazy rich of it. You know, that's
very good.
That's something that, you know, when it comes from your heart, it's very hard to let go of.
Yeah, and that's directly a very good lesson for the people that are watching and listening as well. It's like if you want to start a business, you gotta, you know, solve a problem, right? So find a problem that's really like close to you that you want to solve. For example, this really big frustration that you have, and you know, find a way to solve that and to tackle that. And then you have a really unique idea. And I think often that's where they're really the passion comes.
You need a lot of passion.
Exactly.
Because it's going to be very hard.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, you're like I said, I wake up in the morning exciting. I'm not excited for every single thing that I have to do, but if the main vision is there, if you have a passion for what you're trying to accomplish, then you're willing to take all those steps that it takes, the difficult steps, in order to make that vision a reality, right? And then you can do the difficult stuff because you will know it will lead to the end result. So not every day is going to be easy and enjoyable and everything, but at the end of the day, you know that today I got one little step closer to what I'm trying to reach here.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So Sam, I'm wondering, is there any like other things that you're currently working on, new music, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. I'm of course always working on new music. So I've got a release coming up with Gavin James that's going to come out soon on my own record label. Another one called When You're Love. There's like I said, a new deal that I just signed that allows me to work with bigger artists and bigger featuring. So that's going to be super exciting. I have a new project with Jonas Blue called Endless Summer, which is a more underground alias of Sam Feldt, where I can, you know, play the deeper stuff, the more techno stuff that I really enjoy myself, that I haven't been able to play in my Sam Feldt sets. because there are specific songs that I kind of need to play as Sam Feldt that I don't need to play as Endless Summer, which is cool because it's a creative blank kind of check, kind of blank slate. So that's all happening. ADE is of course coming up, lots of touring. So exciting times.
Awesome, man. So it's time to wrap the show up. And how are we gonna finish this?
We are going to finish it with the final 5, which means we have 5 questions.
Okay.
And they're quick questions. I'll start with the first one. If you had to choose, would you choose DJing or entrepreneurship?
Oh, wow, that's a difficult one. It's not an
have
easy
to
5.
choose.
It's a quick
No,
5.
we
it's
said
not
quick
called
five.
an
You have to
easy
answer
five.
it quickly.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
I think I would choose. I would continue to DJ. Yeah.
Nice.
And I one more sentence to add to it, and it's very complicated because I've always done both, so I don't see them separate. But like DJing is what I get the most enjoyment from, and I feel like spreads the most happiness as well. But you can't really DJ without having a brand and having the music
Of
and having
course,
all the other stuff.
It's like what you said. You have to have the knowledge of different parts of the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Next
Next
one.
one.
Never eat Korean food again or Korean food every day.
Oh wow. Wow, I don't want to insult my fellow Korean, my Koreans. I just did a song with Monster X, one of the biggest K-pop bands. So I could definitely eat Korean food every day. It's very versatile.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like we were in New York a couple months ago, and then we met up and had Korean.
Yeah.
That was our first time having Korean food with you guys. We enjoyed it so much.
Yes.
Okay, I can eat Korean food every day. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice. Mornings or evenings?
Evenings. Yeah, I'm not a morning person. No, what you have, I don't have.
That's why we had to do the podcast an hour later today.
Yeah. No, I like to.
Okay.
I like to wake up, like by myself. I like to have an easy morning, have a cup of coffee.
Slowly.
Yeah. And in the evenings is when I have usually a lot of energy. It might also have something to do with my schedule.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
because
feel like a lot
shows,
of creatives. You are the same way, and Kieran who's filming, and most of the creative people that I know, they like the work in the evenings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in the evening I'm done. Like I like to be. I would consider myself a big creative, but mostly productive guy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just like the mornings. We go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But good.
Now,
Good
if you had to
balance.
pick one country, because you go to a lot of countries, if you had to pick one country, you had to stay for the rest of your life. You couldn't go anywhere else. Which country would that be?
I'd stay here.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think Amsterdam is beautiful. I hate the winters here, but I think I'll cope. Look outside; it's sunny now.
Very beautiful.
And I mean, do I have to stay there or live there for the rest of my life?
Stay there. Yeah.
Stay there.
Forever.
Stay
Yeah.
forever. You cannot go anywhere else.
I was gonna name like our airport as a big perk, but
No.
this is useless. yeah.
You can go there, have food, and come back. That's all.
Yeah. But we have I think a great place here.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The last one has to do a little bit with your biohacking. Would you rather take a supplement that boosts everyday productivity but takes 10 years of your life in total? Or would you rather take a supplement that lets you live 10 years longer but takes 1 hour of productivity off every day?
I'd like to live longer if it's healthy. I don't think productivity is the main goal. I think it's useful to have that in your toolbox, but I think enjoyment is the goal.
Yeah.
So fuck that hour of productivity. Give me 10 more years.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah, I like
Good.
that.
Very good. So, Sam, thank you so much for being on the show, being our first guest.
course.
We hope that you guys are very excited for this show to continue. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you are. Make sure to go follow Sam. All the links will be in the description box. And be sure to follow us as well. And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Peace. Ciao.
Noise. Cut.
Again, I can get it, I can make it, yeah, I know it, and I'm never looking back again. Yeah, I'm never looking back again.